No?
Oh. No,
No?
but you can have this one if you're stuck.
Okay. That's weird.
If it's a me.
Don't know.
We are live. And we are recording. For 6:30.
Thank you. Bonsoir, good evening. Bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil virtuelle. Welcome to our virtual Zoom meeting. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest, aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None?
Mover and a seconder for the agenda and the addendum, please.
Leo?
Leo? It is moved by Councillor Ravita and seconded by Councillor Manette. Be it resolved that the addendum for the meeting of council held on December the 15th, 2020 be approved as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried, adopté.
Il est proposé par Conseiller Mallette, appuyé par Conseiller Ravita. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on December the 15th, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? None? Carried, adopté. On procède avec committee. We proceed with committees, and the first committee on the agenda this evening, emergency measures and public safety, mesures d'urgence et sécurité publique. And I'll pass it on to the chair, Councillor Chris.
Thank you. Just give me 1 minute. I can't share my screen. So we have a letter from regarding safety issues on Toronto Street, and this is basically the section seems to be. I actually drove by it today. It's the section as you leave 64, Highway 64, and you're around the corner by Dover Court. There is an issue of speed, people backing out of their driveways. Their driveways are not very big there. It's quite a sharp corner. The volume of traffic and parking is the issue. And in the winter snowbanks, it makes it even more difficult. And I must admit that it is an awkward piece of road. Like when you drive by it, you think, yeah, I can understand what they're talking about. The letter itself outlines the concerns, but I don't really see a solution like to the problem. So as far as I can see, this is something that we probably need to give to staff and public works to have looked at to see if there is anything we can do. The other thing is I'm not clear myself on where that piece of road sits, because it is Toronto Street, but it's also clearly designated as Highway 64 on various maps. And that's all I had. Madam Mayor, you put this to the agenda. Did you have anything to add? Madam Mayor, did you want to add to that? Sorry.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. The letter also makes reference that council had discussed the issue about Dover Court. And when council decided to close Dover Court for entering to the subdivision, it redirects the traffic of the residents also on Dover Court to the intersection of Highway 64 in the area of Toronto. So there's an increased traffic there, and there's also safety concerns pertaining to the incoming traffic or the outgoing traffic that are circulating along the highway. and that need to travel along Toronto. So with all the signatures and with the winter months in front of us and snow banks, it makes it even more of a hazard. And there's no solutions identified here, but maybe there's an opportunity that, either they look at a stop sign, a light, or reopen Dover Court and look at other options to mitigate the speed on Dover Court, which would alleviate the number of traffic that needs to exit taking this street. So those probably would be the only options that we can consider. But it'd be nice for council members if they had any feedback to provide, and for staff to research and provide us back a report early in January to resolve the issue before there is an accident.
Okay, so thank you. So we'll just do a quick roundtable. I did have one more comment. We could put a data log of that to see what the extent of the problem is. But let's do a quick roundtable. Yvonne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is a problem. There definitely is a problem. I've been confronted with people on this issue for a while now, since we've closed the Dover Court. Now, Toronto's you have to, the area. It's a curve all the way around. It's like an S, and it's it's very short in length. So anybody coming around the corner, coming out of Dover Court, turning left, will have a problem. And there have been close calls. It's a dangerous situation. I would suggest that our director from Public Works maybe put a sign indicating the speed limit there with the light, the sign that indicates the speed that you're traveling. We can do that on both ways, and look into that possibility for now. And then directing maybe the police to monitor that area very closely, because it's 40 kilometers an hour coming in from the field. So the traffic should be coming down around that corner fairly slow. So we have to do something now because of the danger involved. And it is a hazard, and I think we should look at it very seriously. And I would take your recommendations, Mr. Chair, with allowing administration and Public Works look at it very seriously, come back with us with recommendations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think reopening Dover Court would be a solution. Highway 64, or what you call Toronto Street, the traffic's been going on there for years, and people just need to be careful. That's all. I don't think there is a solution. When you're living on the highway, you have to expect these things. You have to take extra precaution. So this is all for me on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millet.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. We should ask our Public Works to investigate and see what we can do. I know we had a petition to close Dover Court. I mean, not a true street. So, I mean, I guess they created that problem when they started, but that was a petition from them. So we closed it. I don't know about reopen it. I mean, Sean will probably suggest we do, but I mean, it's up to make a recommendation to council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rivera.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you want to go? Do you have any additional comments? I'm just going in alphabetical order.
Okay, I just want to provide a point of clarification. The petition that we got for Dover Court had to do with the speed. They did not request that we close the road. They asked for speed bumps. And when this came back to council, based on Public Works, it was recommended not to go with the speed bumps. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that and see what are suitable options, because redirecting the traffic from Dover Court to Toronto. And that there's poor sight lines as far as visibility, and that visibility will get worse during winter. There has to be an intervention because we've redirected the traffic to use that road.
Thank you. Councillor D. Seneca.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my comments would be maybe look at the lights at the three corners of the court and the Highway 64. I don't know if that's possible. We'd have to talk to Ministry of Transportation. So maybe a set of lights there, and maybe, or else at Dovin Court, we could have a three-way stop there just to slow down the traffic down the road. So I'm not sure, because I was when you come out of Dover Court, it's scary. You have a left turn, you don't know what's coming around the corner. So these are two suggestions I would put on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor El Seneca.
Well, I do have a lot to say about that because I take that road sometime 4 or 5 times a day when I go downtown. And I've been having people knocking on my door, neighbor, because first of all, I was blamed because it's my fault if they shut down the Dover Court. So they're knocking on my door right now to say, do something. And I said, well, it was brought on the table. There's nothing I can do. I talked to Sean because a letter was sent. This is a terrible corner. I mean, I don't know how come nobody got killed right now. And Madame Mayor is right. They did not ask to close down the street. The petition went on for a stop sign. A stop sign happened. I think they waited not long enough to see how good it was working. Again, a request was said that people was blowing the stop sign. So, and then at that point of time, it was mentioned speed bump for whatever reason that was denied. And then decision was made to close down the street. It is terrible. And I mean, the people from, and I'll talk about the people of Dover Court, and I know some people on Toronto street too, from the number 200, because myself, I passed there. It's terrible. It's something's going to happen and something bad's going to happen. I had already 4 persons that came close, very close. And I know Councillor Dan is advised of that because one resident spoke with him about it early in the morning. The neighbor mentioned many occasions that it's like, and you need to realize on Dover Court that most of the population are retired people. There's a few people that's over 80, they're still driving. And I mean, you know, it will just take about 3 seconds, and instead of pressing on the gas to try to cut the car coming on both ways, that somebody's going to get killed. Coming out of some houses on Toronto Street, well, the car sometimes it's almost they coming into their where they go, the entrance, and it's the driveway is right there. Right now, look at the snow, and we didn't have 10 feet, and there's a bench of snow there that will stop you for seeing where you're going. You're coming down from Field, and it's for 40 kilometer. Then as soon as you turn right on to turn on Toronto Street going towards Field, it's 50 kilometer. I know it's MTO. This is not the municipality's issue, but a letter should be sent and make sure that they have the same speed limit. Also, another thing is that I spoke with an officer, OPP officer that lived not too far from here. And I was, because I was advised that the OPP were advised and they were monitoring the road. But that OPP stated that, yes, they're monitoring when they turn on 69, is it 67 or 69, the highway to Field? Anyways, I'm not too sure. When 54. You get 54, okay, so 64.
64.
So they said 64. So they said they have they saw car there, and she knows for a fact that they had posted car. So I guess if people get ticket and they're going toward Field, they're more pissed off and they're going faster because they just got stopped and got a ticket. But I myself did not see. I saw on Dover Court, when they first started to monitor the street, almost every day, OPP there park. That time, I think, I don't know if for a while it was West Nipissing, but when OPP took over, it's been monitored. But as soon as the road were closed, I mean, it's terrible. So I don't know if I have a option, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I don't know if I should say it's recommendation. I think it's something we can look at it. The tree stop sign, I'm not too sure about that, if we would permit to do that. The OPP in question that I spoke said there should be a lights there, and you see it often in a place like that, and it's in MTO that are responsible. That would definitely solve the problem. But not only we have that traffic coming on both sides, you got people across the street that's coming in too. You know, the couple of driveway right on those curves. And so three-way stop, a big sign that said the commercial truck would not be allowed to turn on Dover Court if they don't have to deliver something. And obviously, I forgot to say I would reopen Dover Court. That's clear that it needs to be open. This summer, I mean, even going and walking, it's terrible because of the construction. And next summer, wait for that, because they will be constructing the building all the way from my place up to the stop sign. So that would be my recommendation, that to look into it, something needs to be done. I mean, it's clear that something just waiting to be happening. Have the neighbor beside me that he said the first snow, like you put the brake and then you start sliding. So, I mean, you cannot expect public work to be there at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to put sand to make sure that they won't slide, whatever. It's very, very, very dangerous. And now, on top of that, I went for a walk, and I had to go through a big bench of names. I don't know how you say that. How you said those things that they ban names en anglais? Qui sait comment? Hein?
Snowbanks.
Snowbank. And now, if we want to walk, if there's another snowstorm, if you want to walk, you're going to have to go all around it. Well, I have enough to drive on that highway. I don't like to walk on that highway. So either they do a trail that people can walk. And I have somebody knocking on my door yesterday. She walks every day across the street. And she said, that doesn't make sense, that I have to go and climb a snowbank to go for my walk. And I think Councillor Dan, you can vouch for that. You run here every day. I see you every day. So this is not right. Like I said, the people of Dover Court did not ask to close down that street. They asked to solve the problem. And I think the stop sign was too short of a time frame to give people time to get used to it. Then they could have put a speed bump. I'm sorry, there's speed bump everywhere you go. In North Bay, Sudbury, I don't know why. And take it out in the wintertime if it's dangerous for the snow plow to get broken down. So that's my say. I want to put in record that, I mean, something needs to be done very, very fast, because I don't want to be responsible for that. I did not vote for it. Anyways, I didn't even sign the petition because I just moved in and she missed me. But I would have agreed for the stop sign anyways, but not to block the street. So that's my say, and I hope Public Works can come back with a good solution and a fast solution. The fastest one would be right now to open that road till they find something more permanent to do so, because it doesn't make sense. People's gonna get killed there. So, thank you. So can you do a summary, Councillor Fisher, about all the recommendations that have been put and what can be done?
There's a lot of recommendations there. So there was everything from signage to the data logger that's got the speed thing, opening Dover Court, speed bumps on Dover Court. There's sort of two problems here: the extra traffic from Dover Court and the sharp corner. The lights were suggested, so there was all kinds of stuff. But I think basically the general gist of things is let's put this problem to our administration and Public Works specifically, and have them come back with recommendations on what we can do on that area. So one thing I will say that hasn't been mentioned, and I think it's human nature. When you're approaching Toronto Street, you're coming off 64. You're going highway speed, and it is quite a drop. And like it's I always, when I get to that sign, you really got to check the speed, because you're coming off a highway and you got to cut your speed instantly in half. So there are lots of different ideas, lots of different measures, and also obviously continued monitoring from the OPP. So in summary, we pass that to Public Works and wait for their recommendation. So yes, Lise?
Can I have,
Lise?
can I have a time frame, please, to, because I see that Sean is there and Jay is there. They're all black, but I know they are behind that black screen. If they could say a time frame to come back to us, like the first meeting in January, because I think it's a very pressing, I don't know if it's a word.
Pressing.
Ça presse, OK? En bon français, là, en bon anglais, là, ça presse avant qu'il y ait quelque chose qui arrive. So I see Jay.
We'll try and get it for the first meeting in January. There are a few little issues with that, but I'll try and work it out.
So in the meantime, Jay, could you communicate with OPP to see if they could? There's a lot of places they could park on the Toronto and even on the corner of Dover Court to see traffic coming. Please. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I did have another question. Is it possible to find out what can be done to accommodate the pedestrians?
I'll talk to Public Works as well.
Okay, so there's an opportunity that can be explored even before it comes back to council early January?
Well, if there's, sure, yeah. Okay,
thank you.
Well, the thing is, Jay, that right now, if there's another snowfall, we won't be able at all to
yeah.
Okay.
And Sean is listening, and he'll be addressing that area. Yeah.
Hi, Sean.
Okay, so in summary, I'm going to hand this big thorny file over to Sean, and he's going to come back with recommendations.
Sean
And with that, I think that ends this section, and I will pass it back to Madame Maire to continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chris. On procède avec le prochain comité services sociaux et santé, social services and health, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Leo.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is brought up by Councillor Dan, and if Councillor Dan wants to speak on this issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. By bringing this to the table, I'm creating a sense of urgency. You know, we're talking about urgency in regards to Dovercourt. This is urgent also, because there are people in our community that are really worried about being without a doctor. And not only do they have to collectively deal with the threat of COVID, and one can find themselves in a position of no doctor whatsoever. So what I'm asking, and then furthermore, I think that the departure of one of the doctors has created a sense of nervousness and anxiety amongst his patients in our community. And he has had, or he has now, but he's leaving in December 31st. He has 1,850 patients, which is a fair amount of the number of patients that we have attached to doctors in our community. So I've been receiving inquiries, and I think some other councillors have received inquiries too, but by his patients stating that, you know, they're getting mixed messaging. You know, some are messaging, the messaging is as follows. They're saying, well, apply with the family health team and you'll be accommodated. Some have been told, oh yeah, do that. But then no, make sure that even if you apply with the family health team, make sure you contact and register with the Healthcare Connect at 1-800-445-1822. And then other comments were, is just seek a new doctor, do it on your own. And you'll have to pay $30 to have your file transferred to the new doctor. And then they say, well, apply with the community health, the West Nipissing Community Health Center. So I think it's our responsibility as a community to, and by default, the municipality, to ensure we have adequate primary care services. Back in the days when I was doing economic development in North Bay with Minister Fideli, at the time was mayor, one of the things that potential employers always asked us is, do you have adequate healthcare system? Do you have adequate doctors? Will my people find doctors? Blah, blah, blah. So I think by default, it becomes, and morally, it becomes our responsibility to put some urgency to this. So what I'm recommending is that staff make the following inquiries. Is the family health team going to be able to accommodate all the patients? Has the doctor recruitment committee began to take on the measures to alleviate this the perceived problem? And 3, will the West Nipissing Health Center be able to accommodate some of the patients? On that note, I know that at our last meeting with Centre Communautaire de Santé, the Community Health Center, Guy was saying that we're getting all kinds of phone calls, people desperate, pleading that they get into our doors to be looked after. And we have a set process. And I think that when staff inquires about that, you'll find out that there's a waiting list and there's a system in place. So I think if the inquiry comes back that there's definitely a need that in the community that for another doctor or doctors, that I recommend that the doctor recruitment committee make this initiative as a priority and work on it as soon as possible, part of their recruitment strategy. Because what we're talking about is recruitment strategy for primary care servers. It's people that work not at the hospital, but that are providing primary care health services in the community. So I know that it's not under the purview of the Municipal Act, but I still think we have a moral obligation as citizens of this community that people do not feel that, that they're under that pressure of not having a doctor. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table. And I'm just asking for your support that we provide this to staff and ask staff to do the inquiries and then come back. And most likely the comments will be that we definitely need another doctor or doctors, and that that we can, put some pressure on the doctor recruitment committee because we are funders of it, and that we get something moving. Because, I'm getting stopped on the street by 75-year-olds when I walk my dog, saying that they're scared that they don't have a doctor. Cynthia can attest to that because we've been stopped twice by 2 ladies in the Chateau area. So that's my plea. And respectively, I'm asking that we move forward on this.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. I'll go do a roundtable. Councillor Yvon, you have anything to comment?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there's certainly always a problem with the lack of doctors, and we always want to have the availability of trying to find some. Although I understand the situation, and I for one wouldn't want to be without a doctor as well. The recruitment committee, I guess they're doing everything they can with respect to trying to get a doctor. It's just that they're not knocking at our doors like we would hope they would. But I don't know if the administration would get a straightforward answer on this, but I do understand that there is a need. There is something that we should do, and I think whether the administration will find an answer, I would think the answer would be, as you had said, Dan, that we'll have to find some doctors, and hopefully there's either the committee itself or someone out there that could look at finding a doctor or doctors to come into this area. And it's just that it's hard to have them come up north. I understand that, but that's, I know if we had a magic ball and we can do something with it, then and say, well, let's have a doctor, but unfortunately it's not the case. It's very hard to have doctors recruit in this area. And I'm sure everybody's doing everything in their powers to see this happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, thanks for your comments, Councillor. Before I go to Councillor Rowley, who sits from council sits on the doctor recruitment? Yeah, Madam Mayor?
You know what? I want to start off by saying that when it comes to recruitment and retention of health professionals, that's one of the reasons that council always contributed monies for this initiative, because we definitely want our citizens in our community to have excellent medical care and services within West Nipissing. It's a valid concern. Councillor Dan brings up a valid concern. When you have a family physician that has a family practice in West Nipissing and that family physician departs the community, it means that there's going to be a gap. But there's also reassurance to members of council that when it comes to recruitment and retention, that initiative is ongoing all the time. It's true that the committee, due to COVID, was not able to meet based on priorities from our stakeholders, but there is a meeting that will be scheduled early in the new year. That said, I also want to share that the actual position, it was confirmed that the individual left the community in September because of a news article that had been made aware that the individual had accepted a permanent full-time position with a community health center in, I believe, the Port Colborne, Fort Erie area. And that's how the community was made aware that the individual was leaving West Nipissing. It's true, any residents that do not have a family physician, as in the past, they need to call the Healthcare Connect, the phone number that Councillor Dan provided, because that's the system where vacancies are identified and recorded with Ontario Health. And it also stimulates the ministry, I shouldn't say stimulate, but the ministry is made aware of that data and also provides, sometimes funding for new recruits to come to West Nipissing. But needless to say that, it's a vicious cycle because we have one individual that have left, but in the upcoming years, there's also going to be individuals that possibly will be retiring. So it's an ongoing issue when we look at recruitment and retention of health professionals. That's what the committee had changed throughout the last few years. It wasn't only focused on doctors, it was focused on the health professionals that were needed for West Nipissing. Just to give you a very quick outline of the success for 2020, I do know that the hospital was successful in recruiting 2 part-time emergency department physicians, 2 part-time locum physicians for inpatient care, 4 radiologists to also support the CT scanner. And in 2019, 1 full-time respirologist and 1 full-time hospitalist, and then 1 full-time emergency department physician. We're very blessed, and it doesn't compensate, and I agree, it doesn't compensate for an individual to have a family physician, but we're very fortunate that we have a hospital in our backyard that is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and that the waiting time is much lower than hospitals in our neighboring municipality. But I'm sort of a little bit confused why we would ask staff to call the health center to get information pertaining to waiting list, if there could be any intake, because Councillor Dan sits on that committee. I do know yourself, Conseiller Leo, you sit on the hospital board as liaison to council, and I sit on the committee for recruitment and retention of health professionals. And I do support, we have a need, and we need to focus on recruitment. And there will be a meeting in the new year. And if Councillor Dan wishes to attend, I'm sure that the committee would welcome your presence to attend the meeting. But in the interim, I believe it's a political issue. As community leaders, we want to make sure that we have the proper services for our residents in West Nipissing. And since we already have members of this council sitting on A, the health center, B, the hospital, on the committee, I think that we should take it upon ourselves to make sure that we go back to our committees and our boards and that we get the same information and that we provide updates to member of council, because we're going to be moving forward with a new budget for 2021. And I do know that there's going to be a request to maintain the $20,000 that we give per year for recruitment and retention.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question, you answered my question. You sit on that board. Don't we have a staff that sits on that board also? Did we have one time?
We do. We have Stéphane Poulin, our Director of Community Services, that also sits on that committee.
Okay, thank you. Just for
And-
information for the people.
And if I may,
Yes.
on that committee, we also have community partners such as the Centre de Santé that sits there. We have Nipissing First Nation also. And we have other individuals from other agencies that sit on that
Mayor?
committee.
Madam Mayor, may I be excused? Can I pass the to Councillor Dan? Because I need a phone. I need to speak on the phone with somebody.
Okay, perfect.
Councillor Dan, take hold for me for just a few minutes.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leo. I just wanted to make a comment before we go around table, is that what you described was people that are being employed by the hospital, and it has nothing to do with primary care. And my focus was to bring this to light, that there is a need for primary care health service providers in the community. And I think that, okay, hats off, your committee has been doing a good job staffing up the hospital, but what I wanted to do is create an urgency that we focus on doctors that will be primary caregivers, and perhaps to work in the community, because we know the emphasis in the health system right now is primary care and ensuring people don't have to go to the hospital. So that's just a comment. Yvonne, did you have any, you made your comments. Chris, please.
So I mean, I just say a couple things. This has been a long-standing problem. It took me close to a decade to get a doctor for me and my family, and I went through I have one now, and I did go through all the steps, and in the end, I got one because I got pneumonia and I was hospitalized, and I begged. So it is a long-standing problem. And I do agree that primary care doctors are important. And the one thing that I don't really understand, and I think is a bit of a gap in West Nipissing, is we don't have a walk-in clinic. So I think a lot of people, and I would be one of those, like, I'm not going to go to an emergency because I have an earache. But if I don't do something about my earache, eventually I need to go to emergency because it gets worse, because it's not actually just a simple earache. So we don't have drop-in clinics in West Nipissing, like a doctor drop-in clinic, and it seems like you're directed to emergency, and I see that as a bit of a problem. I don't know much about the health area of things, so that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Now, Councillor Rowley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I fully support your request, Councillor Dan. I'm behind this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Denis.
Yes, Mr. Chair. My comments are that it's unfortunate that there's not enough doctors to supply the needs. But this has been going on for years and years. I have lots of friends that don't have a doctor. I had relatives that don't have a doctor. So it's an ongoing issue, and I think we're not going to solve the issue tonight. I think we have all the processes in place to deal with this. We have a committee and all the other supporting systems. So as much as I would like to do something fast, but it's a way of life everywhere now that doctors are in short supply, and it's up to us to come up with ideas to bring them in town. And I think we have a good doctor recruitment committee that is still working on it and always working on it. So as far as I'm concerned, let's keep trying. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you. Councillor Leo, I'm just doing the round table, and I'm up to Lee Sinicat. Councillor Lee Senecal.
Merci, Dan Revida, conseiller Dan Revida. Thank you. Well, I do, like, I remember, I think we're doing a lot better than 20 years ago because they were, I think, when they started the committee, and I was lucky enough to be part of a trip in Toronto to see how they were doing that at that time. When I agree with Councillor Dan that it's something that need to happen and that we need to address it, but we do have a committee that's looking after that. And when you're talking about primary care, I think they also recruit general practitioner, which will be named seen as primary care, but it's to get those doctor in. That's the problem, because they're not just recruiting a specialist, they're recruiting general practitioner. That's their job. That's a committee. I think right now we have a staff. We have a member of council that's sitting on that committee. I think what Madame Mayor has said, that maybe Conseiller Dan could go and do a presentation on behalf of the Centre de Santé, because I think you're the president on that CA, Councillor Dan, and we have a staff. Stéphane is there. I don't, and it is a political thing to try to, first of all, political thing, we can put money on it, like we're going to be asked at budget time and do anything else that we can do. But I think the question should be directed to the committee and then bring back to council as a general discussion, which will happen should happen before budget time. So we could see that, I mean, the importance of the money we're going to be putting forward. But as far as I'm concerned, they are recruiting a primary care doctor, which is general practitioner. That's part of their job. And even if we ask staff to go and ask question, I mean, it's going to come back to the committee. And so I think one way or the other, I think it was a good thing to be brought to the table. It's a reality. I don't think it's a crisis as much as it was 10, 15 years ago, but we don't want it to become that. And we hope that the hospital, the doctor, whatever school and Sudbury would help us. I don't think we saw much. I'm not too sure about it. So I cannot discuss something I don't know, but I definitely would support that the committee question would be directed to the recruiting committee, and getting involved, the main player, like the member, like Leo is, Conseiller Leo is for the hospital, and Conseiller Dan, and we have a staff. I think we have all the members to forward the direction, not direction, but question to their, and concern to their recruitment, so they can come back and say what plan did they have for 2021.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Leo, do you want me to summarize what I heard?
Yes, please.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is that evidently we've got a committee in place, and that the committee should be, as Councillor Lee says, that perhaps Leo and I should be at the next meeting, that we should try to, just make sure that there's an emphasis on primary care. Then what we'll do is then the staff don't have to do the research. We'll do the research through the committee, and we'll come back with some strategy. Is that all right?
Well, thank you so much, Councillor Dan, for taking over, and thank you for taking the initiative to bring this forward. Because I know myself, I meet some people on the street, and they're orphan patients, and especially since this doctor has left the community, now there's even more. But thank you so much. And back to you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I did have further comments. I just want to clarify with the committee. I just want to quantify a comment that was made. Like, the objective of the committee is not just the staff for the hospital. When it's recruitment of physicians for the community of West Nipissing, we're fortunate that we have a toolbox when we do recruitment. They can work at the hospital, they can set up family practice, they can work at Emerge. There's an opportunity maybe for long-term care homes like Au Chateau, Le Pavillon at the hospital, and even the West Nipissing Community Health Center. That's why all those partners are on the committee, because you know what? We're faced with the same challenges of other communities when we're doing recruitment. So you need to be able to have incentives and need to have diversification based on what the physicians want to do with their practice. So I don't think that it was stated by all members of council that we need to direct staff to do research. We
No.
have a,
No,
if I may continue, Mr. Chair, I'm not finished.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think here is that there's already structures in place. There's the Community Health Center. Councillor Dan sits on that committee. There's no need to have staff to call the Community Health Center to find out, is there a waiting list? Can you intake more patients? We can get that info from the counselor that sits on that committee. With the recruitment committee, what I stated is that there will be a meeting. I was told there will be a meeting in the new year, and I will make sure as a committee member to also extend the invitation to Councillor Dan if he wishes to attend, to be able to discuss the issue of recruitment for primary care. Other than that, I don't think that staff, other than our staff representative on recruitment and retention, attends the meeting. I don't get the issue of what other research is required, because my understanding is as council, we put 20,000 last year. There's going to be a request for more money for recruitment retention for next year. So I just want that to be clear, because I'm confused. I read the documentation, I heard what everyone said, and I'd like you to do a round table, Mr. Chair, and find out from each member if they are supportive of what has been stated, that each member go back to their committee and provide a summary and an update to council so we know what's going on.
Councillor Dan, you had your hand up.
yeah, just as a point of clarification, when I made the summary, Mayor Joanne, I stated what Councillor Lee said, that we would leave it in the hands of the committee, and that we would, as you stated, that you would invite myself and Councillor Leo to the meeting. We would bring the information to the meeting. That was stated. We deviated from what I did as a presentation. So point in place is that we're not getting the staff involved. We're not asking the staff to do the inquiries. And that's where we came with the decision based on what Councillor Lee said, that what we would do is we would attend the meeting, bring in the points to the meeting. And as people that are, for instance, if I'm chair of the Community Health Center, that I would bring the information to the table. But the purpose of tonight was just to bring to the table that there's a sense of anxiousness and a sense of urgency for people who do not have doctors. That's it. And I'm not saying that I have anything wrong. They're not stating anything against the committee, because I know the committee's been working hard. However, I said that the focus now should be on primary care. That's all. So I don't think there's
So it'll come back with the recruitment committee. They're going to do the research, and then we should, Madam Mayor, if I'm invited to go with Councillor Dan to the committee, I will go, and then we can report back to council, and not ask staff to report for us.
Okay, but in the interim also, what we need to be on the same page, if someone does ask us, what do they do if they need a physician? They should be directed to call the Healthcare Connect number, the 1-800 number 445-1822. Donc, on devrait aviser les gens qui sont sans médecin de appeler le 1-800-445-1822. And we've done that in the past also as a campaign to really articulate and get the data of what the actual need is for West Nipissing.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. On procède avec services communautaires, community services, and there's two issues on the agenda. And the first item has to do with an update for ICE rental fees, and I'll pass it on to Stéphane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When we discussed a couple of weeks back the fact that the municipality would not be hosting arena programs such as public skating and shinny hockey, council did suggest that we look at maybe possibility of reducing ice fees to kind of maybe allow more rentals during our downtime. As per the memorandum provided to council, we're recommending that the rental fees remain as per regular fees because we have to take into account that a lot of our user groups have been paying regular ice for ice time. And by reducing those rental fees, I'm assuming that all user groups will then ask for the reduced fee as well, which would put the municipality in even worse position as far as revenue generated from our facilities. So I open that to council's direction.
Okay, thank you, Stéphane. I'll just do a quick roundtable. Conseiller Yvon?
Thank you, Madame Mayoress. Question to you, Madame Mayoress, to Stéphane. What do we charge regular people? What is the rate per hour?
So the rate per hour right now, if you rent ice between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on a weekday, Monday to Friday, it's $90 taxes in per hour of ice. And then it varies after that. If it's a local group for youth from 5 p.m. on a weekday and on weekends, it's $110, HST included. And if it's for adult user groups, if it's what we consider primetime ice, so 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and on weekends, it's $155 HST included. And outside groups, so if we have a user group or a hockey team from the North Bay area that would come in, for example, they would pay the $155 an hour.
Thank you, Steph. Actually, I think that the rates are somewhat fair. I don't seem to have any problem with that. $90, I mean, you can't do much for $90 today. And if you have the ice for an hour, it's considerably a long time to have it. So if someone was to rent it, they could share the cost with someone else. So I think the rates are good. Thank you very much, Steph.
Conseiller Broley?
What about me?
Oh, Councillor Chris?
So I agree with Yvonne. I think those, I think our rates are quite reasonable. I mean, when you said $90, I was thinking, man, I could give $90 and just put my son in there for an hour just to get rid of him. So I think those rates sound quite reasonable to me. And also I assume because we have, we've got less teams and so there's more choice of spots available. And I just think it's all very reasonable and I concur with your recommendation. Thank you.
Conseiller Broley?
I concur with the recommendation. Yes, thank you.
Conseiller Leo?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with the recommendation from Stéphane.
Conseiller Dan?
I agree with your recommendation, Steph, but I have a question. Is 60 minutes still 55 minutes?
It's actually 50 minutes.
Okay, because
1 hour of ice rental equals 50 minutes because we have
Okay.
to allow for ice resurfacing.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to know that because when the kids were playing hockey. Thank you.
Conseiller Denis?
Through you, Madam Chair, $90 is not for everybody here. I think we're getting confused. You said $155 for adults, depending on the time of day, right?
Correct. Yeah. 50,
So what-
it's what we consider prime time or non-prime time ice. So $90 is Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then after 5 p.m. is considered prime time ice. So youth groups, local youth groups would pay $110. Private rentals, if they're from out of town, would pay $155. Same as our adult hockey leagues.
And a private rental for after 5, is it 90 or is it 110 or is it 155?
If it's for local groups, we would charge them the 110.
Yeah, so there's different rates. It's not, we're all saying $90, but it's not really $90.
$90 is weekday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should keep the rate at 90 for everybody until this is over with. And no matter what time, because there's times of the day that there's nobody in the arena. I've worked there, I know. So Saturday and Sunday is probably minor hockey if they still have it. But I guess during the day it's the $90, that's fair, but maybe it should stay like that for 24 hours. I don't know. That's that's what I think we should do. Just leave it at 90 for everybody. But that's my comment. Thank you.
Councillor Lise? You're on mute, Lise. You're on mute, Councillor Lise.
Oh, like when you say I'm on mute, please give me time to reach out and unmute it because I do hear you guys. I was just saying that thinking, oh my God, I wish they would apply the same rule, like an hour, 50 minutes instead of 60, because I would have gained about a few years just right then. They would have applied that for ages, but I think right now, but I know that it's a loss of revenue for the municipality, but we did have money for COVID to try to replace that, the loss of revenue for specifically for those programs. I think so. I would think. I really like right now. It's people have decided because there's 5 people that have said that. So, but I would tend to put it $90 till the COVID is over, to give a chance to some people, maybe get a few family together and to maximize, and maybe by the end you would get more money because the arena is open, right, Stefan? It doesn't close when
No, the arena is open. We're always looking and being mindful of staff schedules as well. So if we know that on a Saturday there are no rentals at all a week in advance, we try to adjust our schedules accordingly to be mindful of our fiscal responsibility. That being said, both arenas are open right now, and we are looking at private rentals. Now, if I can just add as well, if we reduce the price of ice to a point where we're trying to encourage more and more gatherings, then we also have to take into account that even though we have implemented some very safe guidelines and protocols, we also have to be mindful that we're not filling our arenas with people during these COVID times as well.
No, but if I may add, Mr. Chair, I guess, I don't know who was chairing, I forgot who was chairing the meeting, that Madam Mayor, I think, eh?
Yes.
I don't know. So if I might add, Stefan, the same rule would apply if it's even if it's rented whatever time during the day or during the week. So there's no way that the arena would get filled out, because there's a certain amount that would be on the ice, and then they would go out and other people will get in. So you could even space half an hour between every rental to give a chance for people to leave the arena. So I don't see that's, for me, that's not an issue. I'm just saying.
Yeah. If I just may add, there are facilities that are not considering private rentals. See, when we're dealing with leagues and organizations and clubs and associations, the clubs and associations and leagues have responsibilities to uphold the guidelines and protocols. When we do private rentals, we do ask a lot of the questions. We limit the amount of people that you can have at once. We do sign ice rental contracts, but it's much more difficult for a one-off, like a one-day rental for an hour, to ensure that all the COVID protocols, because we can't really, we can have staff there and we're working with them to make sure that everyone's wearing their mask and they're socially distancing, but it does add a bit more challenges than working with leagues and organizations.
Okay. I guess, Conseiller Denis?
Sorry.
You're on mute.
All right. Yeah. Just to add to that, I guess, geez, I lost my train of thought now.
Okay.
Get back to me, I guess I forgot.
Okay. So I guess I did have a few questions, because I think the intent, when I had brought it up, the intent was for people within the same household, a family. So if you had a parents with 3 children, and if they wanted to rent the ice for an hour, and give them an incentive to do some physical activity during COVID. So that was my train of thought. But is the arenas going to be will the arenas be open during the Christmas holidays, or is it going to be shut down?
No, the arenas will be open, except
Okay.
on stat holidays, yeah.
Okay. So if there would be families from the same household that want to rent ice time, they have the capability of doing that. Is that correct?
They do, but again, we're limited and unless we ask for everyone's ID as they're coming in, it's very difficult for us to monitor who's living in which household.
Okay,
For example, we're not getting flooded with requests for private rentals, but we are getting some. And again, some are saying will be 20 of us just for a fun skate, but we don't know where these individuals live, and and then we allow up to 20 for private rentals. So it's difficult for us to monitor who lives where and to implement such
Okay.
regulations.
but would there have been an opportunity to consider an option of not up to 20, but just a family? Let's say, I don't know, just family A with their 3 kids, if they want to rent the ice time for an hour, if they could have had a reduced rate. But I'm hearing that majority don't agree, so I'm not going to argue on the subject matter, but that was the train of thought. Not knowing also what's, the weather conditions for our outdoor rinks. We're still forecasted for some mild weather that's coming up. So I thought it would have been an incentive, but I'll respect the choice of council, but that was the objective. Conseiller Denis, your train of thought came back?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Sometimes I lose it. But I was just going to talk about the family issues. There's a family of 5 that wants to rent the ice. Why not? If I want to rent the rink with my 2 boys or whatever, why not for $90? I mean, it's not like the province has a quota on assemblies anyways. We can't have 20 together. So it's got to be somebody from the household. And I think that's pretty doable to have, especially during the holidays. And you should try and accommodate some families if they want to go out with their kids and enjoy it. So for $90, it's worth it if we can keep it at that price. All right, thank you.
Okay. So is there any reconsideration of those that said no, status quo? Conseiller Yvon, no?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
$90 is not much, and I would have to agree. And Denis did bring up a comment there where he worked there and I worked there for 13 years. And there were times where during the evening that there was nothing at all. And we still had a man working there. So if we can get $90 from a family at any given time when there's no one there, I have no problem with that at all. I wouldn't reduce it from that, but I would charge them $90 if the time slot is there, and it doesn't matter what time slot it is. I would agree with that.
Okay, I'll ask for a show of hands just to make sure. So who would approve the
Can I make
$90?
a comment first? Can I ask a question first? Like, I understand this train of thought, and I actually kind of agree with it. My difficulty is, and I guess this question would be for Steph, is the fact that we don't want to make an administrative nightmare out of this because then we're suddenly giving 90 for some people and not for others, and can we have our money back? That's what concerns me. It's not the gesture of the $90. It's the nightmare that it could create. Really, is my difficulty. Steph?
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, as I stated in the memo, one of the main reasons we are recommending that we stay status quo is in the event that all of our regular user groups then ask council to reconsider their ice fees and have it reduced to the same as what the public is getting. So then that would mean that council would have to consider providing refunds for all those that have been renting ice since October when the arena opened, and then we'd adjust the ice rates moving forward. I'm anticipating if council does reduce ice rates for private rentals, that the user groups will come forward and ask for the same ice rate. So to avoid that, we recommended that we stick to regular ice fees.
Okay, Conseiller Alice, Conseiller Leo,
These,
Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Okay, sorry. Stefan, I thought there's a hockey team that's playing. So obviously for them to separate $90 with how many player can be on the ice at the same time? How many guys? I don't know. Do you know? What is I could find out. I could ask somebody that I know very well that play hockey, but it's not beside me right now. So
For Hockey Canada, they allow up to 25 skaters.
So 25 divided by 155, I think it's really cheap to play hockey for an hour. We're talking about a family. I mean, I don't think in West Nipissing that you're gonna find a family. We're talking about parents and their kids, or a parent along with 2 kids or whatever. We're not talking about 20 people at the same time on the ice. Like, we're not talking about the old family that have 24 kids that could bring skating, because we're talking about family time, not group, not to play hockey, just because, I mean, they separate those fees. I'm sure they're not paying $90 each to play hockey. They separate the amount of ice time, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why tonight, I don't think we're talking about groups playing hockey or sport. We're talking about family time. That's it. And I think in Surgeon, West Nipissing, I should say, because everybody can use it. I don't see people trying to get 20 people there, just say they're all my children and we're having a skating party. So I think that's, but I mean, like, I think we talked about it. We made our point. So
Okay.
we just go around and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Consilio, did you have a question or a comment or anything different?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Yes, I agree with Stefan, because I mean, who's going to monitor? You rent it to their family, you'll bring friends. How the hell would you know?
Well,
With the COVID, it is like they say, stay home, stay safe. And I think it'd be a nightmare for staff to monitor. So I agree with staying with the fee schedule as
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just do a round table at this point, because I think we all had our say. Who would support that for family members to be able to rent the ice for, it was proposed at $90. A show of hand, just to see who would support that.
$90.
Un, deux, trois. Okay, so it's defeated. It stays as is. Okay, we move on to the next item, which is the update pertaining to COVID resilience stream. So do I pass it to Stefan, or
Yeah.
is Alyssa on the call?
Alyssa is on the call, but she prepared the memo and I could talk to it because it does impact facilities.
Okay,
Alyssa can jump in at any point. So as per follow-up to our last discussion or our last meeting, we did look at a multitude of different projects that could potentially fit. We have a short time frame to get an application in. There's rules and regulations and guidelines through this program that we must follow. And looking at all the boxes we needed to check as far as projects that meet the criteria, being able to either bundle or not multiple projects, looking at being able to complete the projects by their deadline, which I think is December 2021. We still feel very strongly that the recommended project to move forward with is the HVAC equipment at the rec center, mostly impacting the area where our pool and fitness center is. It's a project that we must complete in 2021. So a recommendation would be to stick with that project. It does check all the boxes of this program. So we're confident that we will get the funding and meet the criteria of the program and get it done in 2021. And it's a key project moving forward. So it would be helpful to the municipality that we're getting 100% funding to get this done.
thank you, Stefan. Did you have anything else to add, Alyssa?
No, Steph said it very well.
Okay, so I'll just do a quick roundtable. Conseiller Yvon?
I have to agree that the HVAC in that area certainly has to be looked at. It's a fairly old system. Unfortunately, the active transportation infrastructure was interesting. with the project that I wanted to introduce to the park. But $203,000, we could have done quite a bit. But nevertheless, the HVAC is going to be a problem in the future, and I think we should tackle that as soon as possible. It's there and it's ready to go. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Councillor Chris.
I agree with the recommendation. I have no comments. Thank you.
Councillor Rowley.
No comments on it, ma'am.
Councillor Leo.
I agree. Thank you.
Councillor Dan.
Yes, I agree with his recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Denis.
Well, I have one issue or one concern. This last meeting when we discussed this, they were pushing for a HVAC. That's fine. I'm not disagreeing with that project. The only thing I don't appreciate is asking for a list of projects and being denied that list. I don't know why we don't have a list tonight. I don't know why it's brought to council if you want a rubber stamp. I think if you have a project or monies like that, there should be projects or a list of something for us to choose from. I don't like being stuff thrown down my throat like this. So I don't think that's advancing anybody when you have your own little projects. We'd like to know what else is available. We're council, we're supposed to make decisions, and we're being brought the issues with no decisions to be made. So if we have to accept it, I don't know why you bring it to council.
Okay.
That's my comment. Thank you.
What was the deadline to submit the application? Very soon, eh?
I think it's January 15th or
January.
December 21st. What's that, Elisa?
January 7th.
January 7th, yeah.
Okay, okay. Was there other opportunities that were explored as well, but
We did look at other opportunities. If council will recall that we have completed a 10-year building condition assessment on our key buildings, which includes town hall and the rec center and our key buildings, our key facilities. And we looked at the priorities identified by the consultants. And from those priorities, the one project that kept standing out to us, if you keep in mind that we're looking at the boxes we need to check through this program, was the HVAC. So yes, we did look at other projects. They were mostly dealing with facilities and with HVAC from one building from another. We, like, as an example, we have a humidifier issue in the lease space that we have with StatsCan. That will be a project that we'll be bringing forth as part of our capital list of projects that we want to get done in 2021. But we felt that this one checked all the boxes, and we feel strongly that it will get accepted through this program. And so that's the one project we're recommending. But yes, we did look at other projects, but this was the one that we felt strongly about.
okay. At the last meeting, did we say that were we told that we would get a list and possibly told that from that list, there would be recommendation from staff of what they would prioritize as project? I'm trying to remember. Alyssa?
So if I can kind of further that, so there were a couple of comments from members of council that they had some thoughts and things like that, and we were told to kind of go back and take a look at things. But further to Steph's point, it's not that there was a list of 12 projects that fit this criteria. When we're looking at other projects and they happen to be, $27,000, we don't have the ability to bundle 10 $27,000 projects together to fit our 203, nor do we have the ability to tackle a $500,000 project and fit it. So when we don't have a list of 12 projects for council to choose from that fit this criteria. So there were a couple of members of council that said, oh, we've got some things that we're thinking about, but as far as what our project list is, we don't have that list. This is, so it's not that we're, disregarding council's request from last time. If council has other projects, but, as we looked at what we have, this is what fits.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say this is basically the only project that really fits the parameters for one big project to qualify and meet all the criteria of the funding. Is that correct, White?
Well, we probably had more than one project that met the criteria. But this one, like I said, checked all the boxes, and it's one project that will get the entire amount done. And it's a priority. And it's the one that we are recommending that we move forward with.
Okay. Conseil Elise?
No comment.
Okay, so by majority identified that they supported this project, show of hand. Okay, so this way we can meet the deadline for the application for the funding. Thank you. On procède avec le prochain comité, the next committee, Public Works, Travaux Publics, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. On se trouve à avoir un item sur l'agenda, and that is the traffic impact analysis, front and coastal intersection. As you recall, at one of the meetings, previous meetings, we talked about the urgency of looking at the traffic going through this intersection and how dangerous it is with the left-hand turns. I talked to the Director of Public Works, and we looked at it, him and I, and found that we would have to do various things to implement the project. But before we do that, we do have to get a traffic impact analysis, and we would have to have this, on a budgetary cost, brought forward to the council. Now, as you know, the studies this nature takes a time. There'll be a lot of time involved, and the Ministry of Transportation and various ministries are not quick on approving these projects. So the faster we get this study, and that we can put something together to present it to various ministries, the better it will be for that particular project. And many of us know how dangerous it is and how many accidents we have had. We're lucky that we hadn't had any death too many of, or any. We've had injuries. We had one death from what Dan is pointing at. So it's something we have to look at. It's the first intersection that we have coming from the North Bay, and there's a lot of traffic on this highway coming through town, and it would help ease the congestions that we have in that corner, and it'll help. It'll be much safer. I witnessed accidents, and it's unfortunate because they're coming at high speeds, and if there's someone parked on the lane to your left, no one can see it. So it's something that we certainly have to look at, and I'm looking to have support in approving now. If Sean, did you want to elaborate a little more on this, or I know that you're looking at, so you're suggesting the fee of about $15,000 to do this TIA, and I would highly recommend that we do this because of the impact, and because it's there, it's what we have to face with, and there's a lot of danger involved. And we had people write us letters saying that they are somewhat concerned and worried about it. So it's something that this council should really look at. So I'm looking to ask the members if they'd be willing to accept the fact accept the cost of $15,000 that would be brought forward in order to do this study, so that we can move forward from there. And Sean, were you? I'm going to direct the question to Sean. Sean, were you looking to get approval for this evening, or did you want to add it to your budget for next year, or what do you suggest here? Are you suggesting that we do this as fast as possible? You're on mute, Sean. No, you're still on mute. No.
Still on mute.
Okay, Sean,
Try muting it, Sean. It might be reversed. No, okay.
Okay, Sean, are you looking at getting approval this evening? Yes or
Yes
no?
or no?
Sean? Okay.
Is there,
Okay, Sean, are you looking at getting approval this evening? Yes? Okay, we'll leave it at that. So I'm gonna go a round table here and get some ideas. I guess we'll have to start with Chris. Chris, what do you think?
So yeah, I mean, I had an additional question for Sean because I'm inferring from the email here that this it says this is typically not done in October in accordance with traffic study guidelines. So I'm inferring that he wants $15,000 in our next budget, and that if we're doing it in accordance with the traffic study guidelines, then that could be next October. And let's face it, this is not a very quick project. So
We got Elisa. Elisa's gonna say a few words on behalf of Sean here. Go ahead, Elisa. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Elisa.
Okay, are we all good now? Yeah, I think I just hung up on Sean, but Sean did call me and he said that it's not a project that we're going to be able to get done this year.
Okay.
Because of the time where we are in this year right now. But it is sort of if we can get kind of commitment for it, it means that he can be out very early next year and get RFPs out and get all that rolling and have it rolling really early, not waiting until we have necessarily our budget all the way completed. So he is sort of, if possible, looking for some direction tonight on what they're doing in the new year.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elisa. Okay, so instead of going all around, does everybody feel that, okay, Lise, no, does everybody feel that the project is warrant? Okay, Lise, go ahead. You have a question.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me? Am I?
Yes, yeah. You're
Okay.
good.
Well, I do agree with it, but I think it's a budget. We have to bring it to the budget and then we'll decide that. And I'm sure the budget's gonna be over by next October if we're doing it, if we can, because don't forget, we don't have anybody sitting on ward number 7. So maybe they won't be budget because we won't be able to make the decision. So, but I think we have to be brought up to the table on the budget. Ah, are you there, Sean?
Oh, okay, I think I,
There you go.
all right, thanks. Okay, got it.
Hallelujah.
Okay, Sean, did you want to add to that?
No, I think I had called Elisa on the landline and, yeah, so if we get the money for next year, realistically, we're getting it done this year. So it would be a project, but definitely is the first step in addressing that intersection.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So Chris, you have a question?
I do too.
yes, now Sean is here. I just have a question about his note about traffic counting is typically done in October in accordance with traffic study guidelines. Am I inferring from that there's $15,000 to spend in October, or because or we're going to do it sooner, or I'm just trying to understand what that line in the email means. Thank you.
So I guess in order to be consistent in traffic counts, they typically do them in October, but the traffic impact analysis consists of a lot more than simply vehicle count. So there's other, steps and measures that can be taken ahead of the traffic count.
Okay, thank you. Dan, you got a question?
I have a comment, actually, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I guess let's just boil down to the fact that Sean is asking for our commitment. And I think, Mr. Chair, you made it very clear that there is a need for it and that we should be looking at providing him a commitment. We find the money in the budget next year, because it not only for traffic, there's a pedestrian that's going to get killed on that corner too. People have a hard time crossing, even on a green light, for crying out loud. People, green light, if you're walking, people are getting cut off. And I can attest to that. I saw somebody nearly get nailed right in the middle of the intersection. So if he wants a commitment, I think it's us that should say, yes, you have our commitment, and that we'll find the money next year. Thank you, Dan, for that. Madame Meredith?
I concur with everything that's been said, but I do have a question. We identify an intersection which is probably the worst intersection within the boundaries of West Nipissing, the one that is more high risk. So we're going to have to wait nearly a year to get the study back so we can decide what measures we can adopt to make that intersection safe. Is there not another way that we can get the information that we need sooner? I'm directing the question to Sean.
Yeah, so what I can say is that as soon as I have direction, I'll get working on it. Typically, traffic counts are done in October, but typically is a loose word that, but I'll definitely inquire and go from there. Just to clarify, 2 meetings ago, I was asked by council to come back to council with what traffic impact analysis would cost. So, here we are.
Yeah, and if I may, is this the only company that can assist us with the traffic count, or is there other service providers that can assist the municipality in events of urgencies? I support it at 100%. I just don't want it to drag over by the time we get the study at the end of 2021, and then we define in 2022 what the measures are. And if we need other ministerial approvals, we're not going to be able to make that intersection safe for another 2 years.
Oh, and realistically, Madam Mayor, I don't think that we can, even if we expedite the traffic impact analysis, you're not going to see any construction before 2 years. This is going to be this is the Trans-Canada Highway. There's a lot of players at the table. And, I'm not very confident that you would see construction before 2 years. To answer your initial, just going back, your initial question was, is there more than one contractor who can do this? And there is absolutely, but the contractor, the traffic impact analysis is undertaken to satisfy the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario. And they have a list of qualified contractors that I have to, if I don't use one of their qualified contractors, then they won't be using the traffic impact analysis. But there is a quite a lengthy list of contractors. So we would be, as per our procurement policy, we'd be going out for requests for quotes.
Okay, and if I may, I'd like to see a recommendation from this council saying that we'd love to have the traffic study, the traffic count done before the end of 2021. And that's why, I endorse right now the expenditure, because we all concurred with the study to get done. But the sooner, the better. That we have this information so we can move on to the second step. That would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Madame Meredith. So, after hearing what Rowley, you have something, Councilor Rowley?
Yes, I totally support this, and I'll leave this in the very capable hands of Sean. Go for it. Thank you.
So do I see a show of hands that will support Sean in getting the initiative and get it going? And Sean will do the steps that is deemed required as per procedure. All in favor?
We are.
Okay, so here we go, Sean. You got to go ahead. Green light. Thank you, Madame Meredith. That's the only item I have on the.
Okay, so I look at my watch, it's nearly 8 o'clock, but Mr. Chair, just before we go on break, we need a mover and a seconder for a resolution.
Chris, Yvonne. Leo want to say something? No?
I think he's just seconding the motion.
Mhm.
Leo?
Is moved by Councillor Duham and seconded by Councillor Amalette, that a break be held at 8 PM.
All in favor? Carried.
Dan, you're not on mute.
No,
No.
no, I'm not. So you got your call?
Yes.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I
look
got
good.
my call. Doesn't look well. They're not going to transfer him to, it's on their race, not worth it.
Oh, Kidius.
There's nothing they can do for him.
No, too bad, eh?
Just before Christmas, and his son from Montreal is on the way up. He's going to be there tomorrow.
Hey.
Right now, the only one that can see him is his wife. Because I think they have COVID in that hospital, and I'm not sure. And probably that's why they don't have any. We can't go there. So we can't go there.
Well, that's too bad, eh?
You know, like I could have drive up with me for a day or a couple of days to go see him, but I can't even get in. So
No. No. You have to just in your prayer.
pardon me?
You'll have to do it in your prayers.
Yes, I will.
Hey, look at Rolly with the.
Yeah, there,
Whoa.
Rolly.
I should go put a red toque on it. Oh wow! Wait,
Le pompon en avant.
Denise Anand, where's your hat?
Ici, ok, bonne journée. I'll put my hat back on with Rolly. Yeah, I don't run there.
Oh, ça c'est au request de Rolande.
Thank you.
I tried to find one and I couldn't find.
I just went to the dollar store.
And you've got the beard.
Yeah, you got the
yeah.
beard
You
too.
should have.
Yeah.
Dan is already the bridge.
Oh, you're breaking up, friend.
Yeah. You're breaking up, Rolly.
Am I?
Yeah. Pardon, là.
Tu m'entends-tu, là?
Oui, là, oui.
There you go.
There you go.
On vient de faire que le truc de même, là, c'est chaud.
Mel, when we go on break like that, do you turn it on and turn it off? No.
No, I don't, because then it creates multiple recordings on the live stream and people don't know, part one, part two. So I just let it play right through.
Now, I have a question. I have a question for Mel. Mel, do you, like, I had a map all ready to share at the beginning when on Toronto Street, but it said share screen is disabled.
Oh, you have to tell me ahead of time so I can turn on the multiple screen. Just
Okay.
let me know if you ever have anything like that and I'll just turn it on.
Okay, next time I'll know better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Conseiller Denis? Okay, so we're gonna proceed with the next committee, sewer and water, Ilo, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Dan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. This policy is basically was rewritten to tighten it up. There was seemed to be some loose language. It was based on, and everybody's had a chance to have a look at it. It was based on research that Sean did, and essentially the big area what he'd like to do is basically increase the camera fee and tighten up the way it's written in the sense of if you're responsible, you're not responsible, or the municipality is responsible, we're not responsible. And he gave a good example to me when I met with him was the fact that, you know, some people will say, well, if it's on the municipality's lot, municipality's piping, then it automatically is the municipality's responsibility to pay the costs. Well, saying that is not relatively true, because what happens is you could have caused it as a resident. I don't have children here anymore, but when we did have children living here, we could have one of our sons throw in a puck or a ball or something in the toilet and then clogging it up. And then it essentially was my mistake and it was my fault. And he said that what we're really looking at too is that if there is a break and it's on our pipe and it's our mistake, like there's not our mistake, but it's our problem in as much as that the pipe is broken, that there's roots that grew through it, and it's essentially our problem, we'll pay for it, the municipality, and we've had that. The reason you'd like to increase the camera inspection rate is that if you look at it from the perspective, we're competing with the private sector. And the thing is that, even the private sector are telling citizens to call us and they only charge $75 when it costs us more money to send our people to do it. So during COVID, it taught us some lessons, and it taught us that no, we shouldn't be in competition with the private sector. Secondly, that the camera inspection fee was much too low, and we want to bring it to the level of other communities that Sean did research on, and that we want to tighten up the language in regards to what's happening in the sense of the blockages. If the blockage is on their property, it's their responsibility. If it's on our property, the municipality's property, but we caused it as a resident, then it should be up to us to pay for it. So, Sean, is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
No, I can, as you said, this is a result of, unfortunately, the pandemic and multiple phone calls from local plumbing contractors. And yeah, it can be summarized, as you said, into two parts. One is, clarifying the language that was misleading, because the language spoke about a blockage being on the municipal portion of the lateral being the pipe, where we clarified by saying, if there's if the pipe is defective on the municipal portion of the lateral, then homeowners are entitled to request reimbursement.
And we've had situations like that already, and essentially where it was shown. It was shown.
It's our current practice, right? That's exactly our current practice. But the way the wording was with the blockage being on the municipal portion of the line, it was misleading to homeowners, where plumbers would go in and clear the blockage, and then they would advise the homeowner that, well, you know what, I think the blockage was on the municipal portion, so they would in turn request reimbursement. So it's just to clarify that even though there's a blockage, then we need to confirm that there's an actual that there's an issue with the piping itself, either, as you explained, by a break, roots, sag in the line. The pipe needs to be defective, not necessarily a blockage.
So, Councillor Yvon, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I took the opportunity in reading the revision here, and I do have to agree with it wholeheartedly. Sean does make some good points. And I think you know, instead of going through what has been said already, I do agree with Sean and what Sean has put here with regards to the fee. And yes, it's something that I would support wholeheartedly. So I'm asking other councillors to consider the situation. It's something that it's been ongoing for years, and we should tackle it right away with respect to the fee as well. And that's how I stand, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Councillor Chris?
Yeah, I totally agree with it. I just have one question, and that's probably for the CAO or the treasurer. So the miscellaneous work rate of $40 per hour. I'm just wondering if that is just if that's a fully costed FTE full-time equivalent calculation, or if that's just like wages plus benefits.
I would say it's fairly close. If you take their hourly rate plus with benefits, it is an extract over the year. No, it comes up to the same. I think that's a fairly good rate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley?
Yeah, I support it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Leo?
Yes, thank you. I agree with it, but I just one question for Sean. I let my senior live in a duplex, and there's a blockage on the municipal side, and there's a doll head blocking. It could come from the neighbor. Is there any way that they can determine where it comes from?
It would be very difficult, but keep in mind if it's a legal duplex, usually you would have two separate laterals. So they shouldn't be, but I know that there are some situations where the lateral is wide at property line. But typically it's the owner of the property, right, who's responsible for the fee.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So I totally agree.
Mayor Joanne?
I don't have a problem with what has been said. I had the challenge when I read this to try to see what were the changes from the existing policy, because I was not able to locate the existing policy. It would have been nice that whatever changes are identified or made, that they would have been highlighted in yellow, and it would have made it easier to be able to see what was being proposed. I do have a question to Thaw Frozen Water Services. So if someone has, there's a fee of $450 which will apply to a thaw water service line for which a freezing occurrence has been recorded within the preceding 5 years. Was that already in the existing policy?
There's no changes to frozen water. The only changes are the ones that we explained we changed the wording from a blockage being effective pipe because it was misleading people. So we didn't change that. And the other change is the camera inspection fee, closed circuit television inspection fee. We went from 75 to the 300. And that is to not compete with local plumbing contractors and to be cost recovery with that fee.
Okay, so one of the changes, other than what's been identified, is an increase from $75 to $300.
Correct. One of the two changes.
Okay, and why the reason it's being proposed, it's not just basically cost recovery, but due to the fact that's the actual fee that contractors in West Nipissing are charging?
We would be more than what the contractors are charging. See, and that's the reason that I proposing the revision is because we don't want to be competing with local plumbers where, our staff are out there to maintain our collection system and not individual homes, right? So if we're competing with local plumbers, then local plumbers can't do this work.
Okay, so is it
And that's
possible?
those are the phone calls that we've been getting from plumbers. They can't even afford to purchase a camera because the municipality is doing it cheaper than what we can, hire somebody to do it for us, right?
Okay, so what's the going rate for a plumber to do this?
So I informed myself on there's a contractor who does it for Union Gas for the cross-bore program, and they're at $200 plus HST.
Okay, but keep in mind that this service is only available Monday to Thursday. And I'm making the assumption, that's what's identified here, that it's during inspections are done during regular working hours from Monday to Thursday. So when it comes Fridays, evenings and weekends, the municipality normally would encourage residents or homeowner to communicate with the plumber, right?
So the first line of communication is always with the plumber. That's the first line of communication.
But I guess my message here would be is that the municipality, our staff does not do the inspection after regular business hours or on weekends, according to how the policy is written.
That's right. That's right. We're not into the plumbing business. But that language didn't ever change. That was always in there, Madam Mayor. We didn't change that language.
Okay.
And in a sense, the fee is not really relevant, because by the time the municipality gets in there, all we're doing we're going in to see where the issue lies on that pipe so that we know where to excavate. And at that point, right, because the property owner will request reimbursement. Therefore, the fee is kind of irrelevant. The only reason we should be doing a camera inspection is to locate a problem with the piping issue on the municipal portion of the lateral. Does that explain?
So it does. So why do we then offer the service? Why do we not just recommend not to offer that service and just do it on the municipal portion?
Yeah. So after 15 years directly in that industry, I know for a fact that plumbers, in order to de-escalate with the homeowners, will 99% of the time say that, hey, the blockage is on the municipal portion. They're going to reimburse you for this fee. It's their policy. See, it says here, the blockage is on their side. They're going to, so it's misleading, right? And the plumbers are, in their defense, it's not always pleasant to present an invoice to a homeowner, right? So they tend to try and de-escalate and advise the homeowner that, hey, the municipality will reimburse you.
Okay, now
We're trying to discourage homeowners to just, call in the municipality because we're cheaper than the contractor.
OK. Non, j'imagine, mon point que je voulais soulever, c'était pourquoi est-ce qu'on offre le service quand on veut que ce soit le secteur privé qui l'offre, puis que nos heures puis nos journées sont déjà restreintes? Pourquoi qu'on n'enlève pas ce service-là aux résidents?
Why? It's just that if ever a resident is stuck, I hate to leave anyone stuck, right? So at least we have a fee in there and we can provide that service. I mean, we have the camera. Don't get me wrong, we're not in it to compete against the private sector, but we do have that service to offer. And the only way that we're not undercutting the private sector is to having our fees a little bit higher than theirs.
Okay, can we move on? Thank you. Councillor Denis Senecal.
Oh, no problem. I agree with Sean.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Senecal.
I also agree with Sean.
Okay, thank you. So you've got your direction, Sean. Thank you very much for presentation. Good work done, Sean. Thank you.
There's,
Mr. Chair. Yes,
just one, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
there's a motion to that effect.
Is there?
Yes, there is, eh?
I don't. Mel?
Well, we
There is,
should
but
have,
it's in the new business under the regular section of the
Yeah.
meeting.
that's right.
Okay,
Janice just put the resolution with that, just so that everything was in one place.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
On procède avec le prochain comité environnement environmental, puis je vais passer la parole au président, conseiller Burley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got one item on the agenda, and it's our response at the board to a request to install bins in Lavigne. So we wrote a letter, the board wrote a letter to council, and if I may, I'll read it for our resident, and then we'll open the floor for comments. Dear Mayor and Council, the following is to provide the municipality of West Nipissing our board position regarding additional recycling bins. The matter of additional recycling bins for the Lavigne area was discussed at our last meeting held on November 16th. I understand that this issue has also been discussed at the Environmental Service Committee of Council over the past year, and that staff has indicated that they would attempt to have something brought back to council last spring. It is also my understanding that our staff, that they have not been able to address the issue given the present strain on the operation, in part due to COVID as well as internal operational factors. On behalf of the board, of our board, we would like to remind you that the responsibility for the delivery of recycling services falls under the purview of West Nipissing Environmental Service. As such, the approval for this expansion must be approved by the board. While we certainly wish to assist the municipality in our quest to enhance services to our resident, we must do so in a manner that considers all additional costs associated with the request. Many issues were brought to the table that merit further consideration, not the least of which are additional resources required to satisfy this request. We have directed our manager to return with a more complete operational analysis, including additional costs. Once this is done, we shall include these costs as part of our next year's budget submission. We will be in a better position to inform council of all the consideration prior to next year's budget. I trust that the above is self-explanatory. So I'd like to open the floor for comments. We'll start with Mr. Yvon Join, Councillor Join.
thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned Lavigne. I think Cache Bay was included in this as well, if I'm not mistaken, that we were going to provide Cache Bay with the same service as Lavigne. I guess I question the why this was not. Well, of course, you mentioned the letter because of the COVID and whatnot and the strains of the operation, but it's an ongoing issue that's we've been talking about for quite some time. I'm very hopeful that we can resolve this issue to get the containers put in place for fairly soon. So I guess from what I see here, it's only going to be done at the next budget submission, where they will give us a cost pertaining to what it will cost the municipality. But hopefully we'll come to an understanding that it is well needed, and it would provide us a good service for the people in Cache Bay and Lavigne. So hopefully we can get this resolved as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Councillor Fisher, Chris Fisher.
I mean, I kind of understand what's going on here, but Yvonne has thrown me a curveball because I don't remember the Cache Bay discussion. I'm confused. Sorry.
There should be no confusion. Cache Bay was also approved for recycling bin as well as Lavigne, and it was approved unanimously by all members of council in the latter part of 2019 when the discussions initially began on the subject.
Okay, sorry, I don't remember the cash pay, but okay, thank you.
I also, Mr. Fisher, Councillor Fisher, I don't recall Casby, but that's okay. Councillor Diomede.
Yes, the thing is about Cache Bay, I think, is over at the dock when you come off the lake for their garbage and their recycling, because Cache Bay has recycle pickup, so it's not a bin sold per se. I think it's only at the government dock where they come off the lake in the winter and in the summertime, and I think that was the issue. And
No.
that's the way I can recall.
Thank you, Councillor Manette. Councillor Dan Revito.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Rowley. So basically, the story behind the story is that they'll get back to us with the cost, and we'll have to determine whether we can pay for it or not. And that it's an issue that they're going to look at, and we'll have to decide from there. But even though that, as the mayor said, that we unanimously said that we would do it, we unanimously said that we would ask the West Nipissing Environmental Services to come back with a plan for us. That's my recollection, and that's where I think that's where perhaps what's getting a little muddy again.
Thank you, Councillor Revito. Councillor Senecal, Denis.
Well, I gotta tell you, this is so ridiculous that I'm not gonna even comment on it. It's so ridiculous. It's been a year now. So I don't know if you want to get even. That's fine if you want to get even, because Cache Bay was included. Now it's not included with the letter. It's ridiculous.
Thank you for your comment, Councillor Denis. Councillor Dees.
Well, I was under the impression that I'm reading that and I'm kind of surprised too, because not only that we had discussed that in last budget, but it would be the third budget that we discussed that. And in my mind, it was said that they will get some bin that we've been whatever, qui sont été refaites, là. Je sais pas comment tu dis ça encore en anglais, là.
Refurbished.
Thank you. And I was reading that, and I mean, because so is that two committee, like that committee is not part of council, like it's not a committee that is set up by council, it's they operate on their own. Who pay for them to operate?
It is a board.
Well, it is the board of council, or is it those are they nominated by council, those members?
Yeah, it's a corporation that provides service for the municipality in the Sturgeon Falls, Springer, Cache Bay area, and a little bit in Field, and then they do the mobile recycling bins as well.
So I'm kind of surprised too that we should have that letter a long time ago, because we've been discussing it. I don't know how many times at council, and I think we should have got that at the beginning. And I mean, because I was under the impression that was part of the budget, and that if for a second year in a row, and there's always something to happen that it was not had a chance to happen. But hey, we'll follow the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dees. Madam Mayor.
I have some comments and I have some questions. Point of clarification that the issue is muddy again. I'm going to be requesting that we are provided with copies of the minutes when the discussion occurred for Cache Bay and levying in 2019. And I want to be able to get clarification, because it was discussed recycling bin. There had been resident from Cache Bay that had approached and submitted a request to have recycling bins. I don't think it was muddy, but I'd like to have the clarification so we're all on the same page. Now, I understand the concept that we have West Nipissing Environmental Company, which is a board, and the shareholders of that board are the members of council, if I'm correct. Council has a duty to set the standards or the levels of service that they want provided to their residents. I find it very unfortunate that we approved, everyone agreed for the installation of recycling bins in levying and Cache Bay back in 2019. I completely agree and concur with the issue that there was a delay because council was told that they would be installed May 2020. When inquiries were done, because the bins were not installed in May 2020, the reasons provided were the issue of constraints and the issue of COVID. And that's quite understandable. But to receive such a letter over 1 year after the request has been brought forward to council and council assured that bins would be installed, I find this isn't acceptable for constituents. It's not a proper form of communication. Now, it's quite embarrassing to go back to the residents that did ask for the recycling bins and let them know that we got a letter from the West Nipissing Environmental Board saying, well, unfortunately, it was not in the budget. We're going to do a full analysis for the upcoming budget for 2021, and then we'll provide it to council, because at the end, council does approve the budget for the West Nipissing Environmental Board. I don't find it's an acceptable process of how the issue for this request was dealt with, and it's unfortunate. But I still also want, at a given point, if it's not this evening, to find out who is responsible in determining the level of services to our constituents in West Nipissing. Because when the budget is approved by council. And council also approves the budget, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to environmental services that are being provided in West Nipissing. That's it for now, but I'd like to have the minutes recirculated to members of council to clarify the issue that was stated that it was muddy. And it still doesn't resolve the issue of having those bins with an unknown date and also an unknown decision. We're not here to discuss what was approved before, but it's to see how it's going to get done and when it's going to get done.
Like stated, thank you, Madam Mayor. Like stated, it's going to be at our budget of environmental, and if there's a lot of factors that you have to look into. It could be it could mean another run, could be another truck, could be another more employees. So this is all factored in. We just can't drop those bins there. So
And
this is why it's at the environmental.
Councilor Burley, I understand this will come back with that information, but we should have been told that sooner. And if I may, who brought this on the agenda of West Nipissing Environmental Services for November 16th? Was it you that added this item to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I asked for it.
So why did you not ask for it sooner? When we've discussed it a few times.
Yes, because if I may answer, it's due to COVID, and it did cause a lot of restraint on our board.
Okay, but that's not my question. I'm not asking the reason why. You know what? Putting an agenda item forward, we can't be blaming the issue of COVID, because we have copies of the minutes that the board had a meeting in August, and you attended that meeting via Zoom. So I don't get it why that subject matter was not added to the agenda when we've been deliberating on that subject matter since 2019.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I think that we're having somebody being lectured, and I don't think that is correct to lecture other fellow council members. Maybe there's a reason. The thing is that I don't think anybody appreciates being lectured.
So what is your ruling on the point of order, Mr. Chair?
I rule that Dan is definitely correct on this.
Okay, but I appeal the ruling, because as an elected official, I do have the right to ask questions and get answers to the question. My question was, why was this?
Point of order. You asked for an appeal. We should be voting on the appeal.
And I have to state the reason for the appeal, Conseil Dan. The reason
Don't lecture me. I won't take it.
Okay, You know what, Conseiller Dan? If you identify that I am lecturing members of council one more time, I will ask you to refrain and depart from the meeting. Sorry, but stop interrupting other people when they have the floor. I am appealing the ruling because I am not lecturing. I have a right to ask questions and I have a right to have answers. I'm asking the simple question, why was this subject matter not added to the committee meeting of West Nipissing Environmental Services sooner than November 2020, when this issue had been brought to council in 2019 and approved by council in 2019? That's the question I'm asking. I'd like to have an answer.
I think there's a point of order on,
Jake?
there's an appeal to a point of order that needs to happen before any discussion goes.
Okay, on the appeal, Councilor John.
First of all, I believe that you would need to do a ruling on the appeal and then call it to a vote.
I did the ruling on the appeal, and
Procedurally, Conseiller Rowley, I believe that since there's an appeal, you do the ruling on the appeal and then you call it to a vote to see if your fellow councillors support your ruling. Is that correct, Jay?
No, I think I think it's the reverse. I think
that is correct.
the appeal, if you appeal the chair's ruling, then that goes to a roll call vote to see who supports the appeal, not his ruling.
Okay, so
That's
I
correct.
just,
Councilor,
okay.
you-
Well, with respect to what has been said, I think that the issue has been on the table for quite some time. I think as councillors, we have a right to question. I think we have a right to have knowledge as to what's really happening and why it's happened. If we don't question that, then we're here for nothing, really. So in essence, it's not because this is a new issue. It's an issue that's been brought up since 2019. So I don't agree with the appeal.
okay. Councilor Fisher.
Again, Yvonne's confusing me because I don't agree with the appeal, but I think I want to say the opposite of what Yvonne means.
Right.
So I'm confused. My
Yeah.
answer is no.
So yours is no, and Councilor Yvonne, what would
Well,
you like? Because you're voting no on this?
No.
Or
And
you
what
voting yes?
what I don't agree with is that she should have a right to speak.
Okay, well, that's what they say.
Okay.
You're not
Yeah.
going the right way.
Okay, well, the opposite way then.
Okay, all right. And then we have Councilor Malek.
Nope.
Councilor Dan.
No.
Councilor Denis.
Just like to say that your ruling on the point of order is not legal, first of all, because you haven't
Yes,
voted.
yes, no, it's, yeah, it's
Tell
a
me,
yes or no.
tell me which procedure that was not followed here. Not Mr. Revita. I want to know the procedure. What's the number of the procedure that was not followed for us to appeal? So what is the procedure?
Councilor,
What's the number of the procedure that you ruled on that's incorrect? First of all, if you don't know, you should know. And I still,
so you're not voting.
I'm voting for an appeal, which is not legal anyways.
Councilor Dees.
Well, you know what? Voting no would mean that I refrain from my right as a counselor to ask question. And I think we have the right to ask question. We always did, we always will, like it or not. And so I have to vote that yes, because she was specifically asking question, and I would have asked that question too when my turn came, because it's been since 1990, 2019.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
It's a yes or no.
I didn't
It's a
have my
yes or
comment.
no on the vote. There's no comments on this.
I
It's a
just
yes or
said
no.
I was voting for the appeal. I said
Thank
it in
you.
my comments. So
Thank you. And so it's no. So it's a
but I
tie,
do
so
have
it's
my
no.
turn to, do I have my turn for comment because you didn't go
Oh,
around?
definitely.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a no. Because
Yeah.
it's a tie.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Chair, but you know.
You're welcome.
I will persist this matter because there was no violation. There was an appeal, there was a point of order based on no violation, and I'm.
The
being
ruling has been
prohibited.
set.
Okay,
Madam
It's
Mayor, the
fine.
ruling has been
It's
set.
fine. I will pursue the matter because I've never seen this before where one cannot ask questions and get answers to the question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Lees, you had a
Well,
question or
I-
comment?
I don't have a question. I'm just saying I don't understand that we can discuss
Okay.
this for a year and a half. That's a comment, and I want to say my comment, please. I don't
Please.
understand why we could not have been advised of that over a year. That was the process to follow, if it is the process to follow, and then all of a sudden, bang, it drawn us. So I find that very, very particular. In my opinion, it's not right to do it that way. And I don't think that the appeal was legal also, because a simple question was directed to what we were discussing. So that's my thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now the ruling has been done. We have to support it.
We don't have, we have to support
Okay.
it. It's done.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, right?
I just want to make sure that it's put on record that the issue will be investigated further because there was basically a point of order, no violation, answers not being provided.
Madam Mayor, it has been
But
ruled
it's
on.
fine, it's fine. And I'll make sure that the constituents in Cache Bay that approach me with the issue, that they will be duly notified. And I want to put it on record that I have no ill feelings toward the board chair that submitted the letter. This individual is acting as a volunteer and within her capacity as volunteer.
Thanks.
Thank you. So this resolves my portion of the committee. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back to you.
On va procéder avec la portion régulière de la réunion, avec the regular council meeting, and we have quite a few resolutions for planning. So would there be a mover and a seconder for the first resolution? Councillor Chris, Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-72 being a bylaw imposing special annual drainage rates upon lands and in respect of which money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act made by Northland Farms and Contracting, Inc., being part of Lot 5, Concession 2 in the Township of McPherson.
Any questions or comments? No objection, carried, adopted. Next resolution, is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mellette. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-73 being a bylaw to authorize the transfer of lands for the consideration of $25,000 plus HST in the Township of Springer in the West Nipissing Municipality shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? All in favor, carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder for the next resolution? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw 2020-74 being a bylaw to authorize the transfer of lands for the consideration of $15,840 plus HST in the Township in the Town of Sturgeon Falls, Municipality of West Nipissing shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder for the next resolution? Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Chris.
Moved by Councillor Mellette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-61 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands on Old Highway 17 in Verner from rural residential zone to rural residential exception zone 3 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Burley?
Yes, again, I would like to ask for a deferral on this. I'd like to see a plan to, in front of us regarding the following: communication plan with the neighbors, a site plan, a budget, whether it's sustainable, clarification on a non-profit or charity, a formal proposal, and a buffer. Yesterday at the meeting, it was never discussed what type of buffer, and we're talking about small trees. It could take 80 years to grow, so that is not satisfactory to the resident. So I would like to have a deferral until we have such explanation in detail.
Okay, so number one, the request for deferral has nothing to do with zoning. You're asking pertaining to project details, budget, and so on. For the buffer, I believe this council has the right to define the buffer. Is that correct, Melanie?
That is correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is that based on the fact that there's a request for deferral asking provisions outside of the zoning request and prohibiting council from discussing the buffer that we could add to the resolution this evening, I will call that to a vote on whether if members of council wish to defer or discuss the site control right now.
Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Could I have a seconder for the motion on the deferral, please? Dan?
So, so for the deferral, Councillor Yvon, do you agree that we proceed with discussion this evening or defer?
I would prefer deferral, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Chris?
Deferral, please.
Councillor Leo?
Defer, please.
Councillor Dan?
Deferral.
Councillor Denis?
I'm against the deferral. I think we discussed that, and it's just a zoning bylaw. So I'm against the deferral.
Right. Sorry. Okay, did we? Councillor Elise?
Okay, so what are we deferring? The zoning, everything, or just the rest? We're gonna go with the.
The request for deferral is for it to be deferred completely.
No, I don't agree with that because it's a zoning issue. The other issue can be discussed at other time. That's the second time it's been deferred because environmental, and it was passed again to the planning board, and it was passed, and they were recommended to pass the zoning. And so that's what we're dealing tonight, the zoning. The other question, they will have plenty of time to have all of those questions. And I think Mel had said that we can state the buffer later on if we want to, when we do the rest of the thing. Am I wrong, Mel?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can set the buffer in the site plan control agreement, which would come back to council, or it could be included in the special provisions of the bylaw right here and now.
So therefore tonight, the only thing that was on the table was the zoning. Nothing else. So I don't know why we're discussing that. So I don't approve. I won't change nothing, but I don't approve the deferral.
Okay, and I want to put it on record as well. I do not agree for the deferral. Wearing two hats, I have a responsibility to the planning board. And as a planning board member, I voted in favor for the rezoning. And the fact that there was one deferral based on environmental issues and the developer provided us with an engineering report, there's no environmental issues. And I can't support a deferral to seek business information pertaining to the project when we're dealing with a zoning issue, which was a land transaction. And I just want it on record. So based on that, the deferral is done, and the deferral, I guess, will need to be brought back to a specified timeline, and recommendation would be 1 month. If everyone agrees to that, because it doesn't make sense from all the information that was requested to be submitted by the applicant back to council during the holidays and provide us with this information by the first week of January. So if there's no disagreement, can we identify the third meeting of council in January?
Yeah.
Yep.
OK, on procède avec les comptes et courriers, correspondence and accounts. Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Oh, sorry. No.
Madam Chair, I think you're,
We have, I know,
okay.
Councilor Dan, I was just going to say, I'm going to back up and proceeding with the next resolution. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor Leo, Councilor Dan?
It is moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Revita. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-76, being a bylaw to authorize the establishment of a crematorium at 13 Industrial Park Road in the West Nipissing Municipality, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? All in favor, carried, adopted. Next resolution, mover and seconder, Councilor Yvonne, Councilor Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhayman and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-77, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 207 Moose Point Road in the township of Grant from tourist commercial to shoreline residential exception zone 11, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, adopted. Next resolution, mover and seconder. Councilor Chris. Councilor Yvonne.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhayman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-78, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands on Bay Street in Surgeon Falls from heavy industrial M2 zone to residential 2 zone, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Are there any questions? Everyone in favor? Carried, adopted. Now we move to correspondence and accounts.
Not
One
quite.
more. Okay,
I know.
mover and a seconder. Councilor Chris, Councilor Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-79, being a deeming bylaw to designate lots 10, 11, and 12 on registered plan 36M598, not to be lots on a registered plan of subdivision, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Carried, adopted. Mover and a seconder for section F1 under correspondence and accounts. Councilor Chris, Councilor Yvonne.
It's moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet, or Councillor Duhayman, pardon me. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on December the 1st, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder to receive the minutes from various boards such as Eau Chateau, West Nipissing Environmental Services, and West Nipissing OPP Services Board meeting. Councilor Lise, Councilor Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. Oshawto Board of Management, October 21st, 2020. West Nipissing OPP Police Services Board, July 16th, 2020. West Nipissing Environmental Services, August 10th, 2020.
Are there any questions or comments? I had one question, and the question had to do with the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Director of the West Nipissing Environmental Services. On page 3, there was a reference that there was going to be a meeting with the ministry, which had to do with expansion discussion for the Sturgeon Falls landfill site. If there's any implication of council involved in this process, will council be updated? I guess I'm asking the question to our CEO.
Yes.
Okay, so that probably will be what, next year when we're dealing with budgets or sooner?
Well, once there are developments that where there's a firm position that could be shared with council.
Okay, so there's no specific timeline at this point?
No, we're in dialogue with the Ministry of Environment. As you know, even to get sidewalks approved, you can imagine an entirely different site is a very long process. And so we're working with them.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Any objections? Carried. Adopted. Moving to the resolution for disbursements, is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the accounts payable disbursement sheets for October 2020 be received.
Are there any questions pertaining to the disbursements? I just, I'm not expecting an answer this evening, but going through the disbursement list, I'd like at budget process that council be provided with an activity report or a summary report pertaining to legal fees. So if we can have a summary of the activities, because I see based on the expenditures for this month, there's quite a few entries on the list. So I think that would be valuable information through budget process. I did have a question for page 3. And I was just curious, when you look at line 151, service and rent to another municipality for the Verner Fire Hall. I'm not too sure if we're renting equipment from another municipality or services from another municipality for our fire station in Verner. That was listed on page 3, line item number 151. Alyssa?
Yeah, I can go back and confirm specifically what that one is. But typically, if we're seeing charges to Marks Day Warren, it's that they've assisted us in a response. And so we
Okay.
track time.
Okay, thank you. And can I just go to page 14, line 751, where we have capital construction projects, work in progress for 914,000. I was just wondering if capital construction was the name of the company or if it had to do with our capital projects of the municipality.
It is the name of the company.
Thank you. Okay, are there further questions or comments? Conseiller Lise?
Well, on the same, for the same number and the same company, like what is it, close to $1 million? What did they're doing? Which project is that?
They're on
Alicia?
the OPP build.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So if there's no objection, is there something funny, Councilor Rowley?
Excuse me?
I said, is there something funny?
Yeah, I'm tickling myself.
That's funny. Thank you for the remark. So if
Well-
there's no objection, all in favor, carried, adopted. So the next item has to do with new business Avant Nouvelle. And I'm just going to pass it to Alyssa if you want to walk us through the quarterly report for the period ending in October.
Sure. So this is the document that you had last meeting that we brought back to do the resolution. So it's the end of September. And it's really just an update, and we're still looking at, and I in this document, I have not included any of those, potential allocations of that COVID funding yet. We do have that COVID funding, but I wanted to roll the entire year through and then allocate the funding as we actually kind of come to the end of the year and what we're looking at. So, the COVID impact is obviously, as it has all year, really impacted user fees and then our penalties and interest, and it's continuing to do that. We did reinstate penalties and interest in October 31st, so people received some penalties in November. The recreation facilities are still open, but the modified method that they're open, we're still just taking such a hit at our revenues there. So we are, going to still be using that COVID funding to offset those losses at the end of the year. The good news in all of it is building and planning, and that when we did the adjustments for COVID, we kind of said, well, who knows how long they're going to be shut down? What are people going to be able to do? And they have had a very busy year despite the time when permits couldn't be issued. They've certainly made up for it, and revenues are in excess of where we thought we were going, and they're on track for the end of the year in a very positive manner. Overall, if we hadn't got into COVID, expenses are well contained, things are looking reasonable. We're going to use that COVID funding to offset our loss in revenue and, be in good shape at the end of the year. I shouldn't say good shape, be in good shape considering the circumstances at the end of the year.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilor Yvonne?
No, actually, Alyssa answered my question. So.
Okay. Councilor Chris?
No, I think Lisa basically answered the question. Like I can see that we've taken a hit places and we've saved other places, and there's no big surprises at the end of the year. And I guess that's what everyone's worried about.
Councilor Broley?
Everything's okay. Thank you.
Councilor Leo?
No, I'm okay, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Dan?
Yes, I'm all right, thank you.
Councilor Denis?
No questions at this time.
Councilor Elise?
Same, no question at this time.
Can I just ask, I don't have that many questions. You answered the issue because I was curious about the COVID resilience funding. When it comes to the Ontario Municipal Funding Partnership that we get from the province, do they not normally, like they tell us the amount that we're going to be allocated for the year, do we get the chunk of money at the beginning of the year, or do they stagger the disbursements or the funding that they give to the municipality throughout the year? Because when I was looking at the OMPF funding, what we had budgeted and what we actually got, it means that we still have more receivables from the province, right?
Yes, they pay us quarterly.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Thank you. And so I know I'm going to be asking a question that maybe I shouldn't be asking at this time, but when we look at the final numbers, and I know it's premature, and there's also some other numbers pertaining to funding, do you forecast that we're going to be finishing the year with a deficit or with a surplus?
So I'm not foreseeing a deficit because of the COVID funding. We've had a couple other, again, COVID aside, we've had a couple other things. We had some really good scrap metal pricing and things like that this year that would have been assisting us. But I don't see us in a deficit because of the COVID funding that will come through. I know when you look at the numbers now, but there are a lot of year-end expenses. I don't expect to be in a substantial surplus either.
Okay, thank you. And the emergency management, the expense is $115,778, but our budget was $3,500. Is that because of the COVID assessment testing center that we have set up at the Salle Marcel Noël?
The large majority of that is the COVID assessment center, our contribution to it. There are other COVID related costs in there as far as just the increased PPE, the plexiglass, some of those direct COVID expenses are in that, but the bulk of it is the assessment center.
Okay. And I know that we have the animal control expenses, and that would be the contract that we have with the North Bay Humane Society. I remember at budget asking the question if they would be able to come to council and provide us a delegation with statistics for the yearly contract that we renew with them. Could that be an opportunity that we go back to them and see if they would be capable of providing council with a presentation early in the new year before we get into far in the budget process, so we have an idea of exactly what we're getting, as far as service?
I think we're headed into, the last year of our contract. I'm not sure if to take you to that, but certainly if it's the wish of council to have them come and do that presentation. I've been playing a bit of phone tag with the director. I can add that to my list of things to talk to him if that's where council would like to have.
Okay, perfect. And there was a comment, and I think I may have the answer, but I just want to clarify the comment. It had to do with page 2, where it talks about mayor and council and saying that the council budget is uncontrollable and will not be able to offset these expenses. So someone that reads this is going to make the interpretation that the expenditures will not be able to be offset. But here, for people that sit around the table, we know that we have budgets for every department, and at the end, whatever it's going to be offset.
Yeah, so uncontrollable doesn't mean racing out of control and the mayor and council are wildly spending. Uncontrollable means that you don't have a lot of discretionary spending. But you're absolutely right. We always do that with all of our departmental budgets. If one department is looking like they got a little bit of trouble, we take a look at the other departments to see, where it's going to offset. Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that part. And when I was looking at the budget for council, what's identified here, the 191,943, but then when we did our budget deliberation in our document 2020, and it could be my fault, maybe we did change it, maybe we did decrease it. It was identified as 197,743. So not that there's a big chunk of change and difference, but there was a difference.
So I know one of the things that the change is that when we came back and did the COVID budget and did we cut training and conferences across the board with everybody, including council.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you so much. I appreciate getting the quarterly report. It gives us an insight of exactly the financial situation, and mostly now with COVID, we're still going through untreaded waters, and sometimes we hope for the best, but we're going to see, how it leads, by year end. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, on doit procéder.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I need to read the resolution for the frozen water policy. Janice, she neglected to put it under the new business. I just need to read that resolution. Sorry about that.
No problem. Is there?
It's my agenda. I neglected to notice that it wasn't in the right place.
No worries.
Um,
Conseil Leo and Conseil Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Whereas at the meeting held on December the 15th, 2020, Council of the West Nipissing Municipality reviewed an amended sewer backup and frozen water fees policy number 2006-453. And be it therefore resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality approves the amended sewer backup and frozen water fees policy as presented, which shall come into force and take effect on the date as passed. And be it further resolved that the amended sewer backup frozen water fees policy shall form part of the policy manual, replacing the previous call-out services billing policy.
Okay, and we've discussed that earlier. So are there any objections? None? Carried. Adopted. Okay, I had prepared, like, this is, the last meeting that we're gonna have for 2020 until the new year in 2021. And I want to say that basically, I think no one can deny that 2020 was a very challenging year, difficult year, mostly dealing with the issue of the pandemic. I don't think that any one of us got up one morning and identified that we would be faced with such a crisis. And difficult for our families, for our loved ones and our friends, for our community, and for the businesses also, mostly when the provincial order was called in March and basically everyone was in isolation and everything was shut down. So I want to take this time to really provide a sincere gratitude to all the frontline workers and all the healthcare providers for their dedication to protect health and safety of our residents in our communities. And also sincere gratitude to all our residents to following the guidelines of health measures and making sure that they protect themselves and protect their loved ones. I take this time as well to say a big thank you and congratulations to all our staff. It's been an evolving situation and having to adapt to changes that were occurring quickly and dealing with the pressures, and basically took away the normalcy of how we conduct business at the municipal level and as per various departments. I want to say also a big thank you to the community partners, our stakeholders, that our staff have been working diligently with and making sure that we had the operation that was set up for the safety of our people, and everyone focusing on the same objective of dealing with this pandemic and dealing with the issues that required immediate attention. To all members of council, it's been challenging. The issue of adapting to technology, a new way of life, on how we conduct our council meetings. And at the same time, it's really been a roller coaster to our local residents and heartbreaking as well in making tough decisions for the well-being of our communities. Events needed to be canceled. Basically, it was a struggle for many people, and we have to be cognitive of the mental health issues and individuals that are vulnerable and in isolation. I mention this because we're heading into the holiday season, and everyone is probably keeping abreast with the news. It's been a scary time. It's been a difficult time. We see the positive cases in our province of Ontario increasing. On behalf of council, I have to say that I'm truly blessed to say that I'm Canadian, blessed that we are Northern Ontarians, and blessed that we reside in West Nipissing, and blessed that we have a lot of knowledgeable experts to work with us to move the community forward for people to be safe. I've never had the experience in the past to be attending phone calls with the Premier of Ontario, along with ministers pertaining to this pandemic. That occurred even last week for the issue of the distribution plan of the vaccines that will be occurring, and submitting a plea to the municipalities, to elected officials that were going to be instrumental, and an experience of a lifetime of this distribution plan throughout the country, throughout the province, and throughout our communities. And that the message that was articulated is the only way that we're going to be able to surmount or succeed in the battle of COVID is throughout this vaccine. So we've heard the news of the arrival, the shipments that have occurred, who are going to be the first individuals to receive it, and the timelines of when it's going to be rolled over to our communities. So all in all, it's really had an impact on the way we do business, on the services that we provide to our constituents. But I think honestly that we want to continue with the pride in La Joie de Vivre in West Nipissing, and to do the best that we can under the circumstances that we're in. I also want to say a big thank you to community members that basically volunteer day in, day out to assist our most vulnerables, that have assisted in making our communities better, and for volunteers that assist also with emergency services. Just last week, there was a local group, the Pentecostal Church, that organized a Christmas supper, which was free to anyone within the community. And it was takeouts, and they even delivered throughout that blizzard that occurred on Saturday. So on that note, thank you to everyone. And hopefully that things will get better for 2021, that there could be hope and faith pertaining to the battle with COVID, that there could be hope and faith in the dynamic of how we work together, and that we work for the same goals and the same objectives to better serve our community. So sur cette note, je prends l'opportunité de faire les vœux de joyeux Noël et bonne année à nos résidents. Et j'offre le défi aussi, si on connaît des gens qui demeurent seuls, des gens qui sont vulnérables, des gens qui sont âgés à domicile durant le temps des fêtes, si c'est impossible de faire une visite, il existe toujours des moyens de communication, soit par entremise de téléphone ou par entremise de les médias sociaux. Donc, I extend that challenge because at the end of the day, let's be cognitive of our neighbors and the residents that we have within our wards, and make sure that if we can lift the spirit of someone and make them feel better, let's do it. And if we do that as a community, I mean, it really makes a big difference. Donc, sur cette note, à chaque membre du conseil, meilleurs vœux pour le temps des fêtes, à vous, vos familles, vos bien-aimés. Keep in mind, still follow the rules of what our health professionals are disseminating to us, and that we activate the same, because we wouldn't want to come back in 2021 and that our situation would be worse. We wanted to get better. We've been doing great, and we want to continue in that positive direction. Thank you. Merci. Is there a mover and a seconder to proceed in closed session?
Madam Chair, before we do that, can I get a motion to extend the curfew, please?
Okay, is there a mover and a seconder to extend the curfew? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Léo.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Mallette. The curfew be extended on December 15th, 2020.
Are there any objections? Conseiller Denis? Carried, adopté. On procède à huis clos. Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution to proceed in closed session? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mellet. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality or local board concerning Chalette Street and Promenade du Lac.
Are there any objections? Carried, adopted.
Just give me a minute. I need